Hey there, everybody. This is Argie from the Ask Dr. Argie Courageous Conversations Connect series. I am Dr. Argie. I am the founder and CEO of Faith Inc., that stands for Family and Individual Therapeutic Healing, and co founder and CEO of Connections Matter LLC with my husband, Morgan E. Wilson Jr. Welcome. Welcome. I'm sorry, guys, we're a little late. I had a lot of other things going on earlier today in the office and just we fell behind schedule. So I do apologize, but we wanted to come on anyway. I'm a little low energy, so I'm going to have to ask for your support. You all know that we give you content, juicy topics, trending topics, and yes, some courageous conversations that hopefully connect. And because we ultimately believe that if you don't have the courageous conversations, then sometimes you can't have the healthy relationships. So all I ask you to do, this is Mindful Mondays, is STLC for me. Share, tag, like, and comment. DM someone, text them, let them know we're having a conversation. And remember, all month, the month is not over. So this is still July, and we've been talking about weathering the storm. Are you in the hurricane season of your life? Are you in the hurricane season of your life? What does that look like? And so I decided that we would talk about married in the middle of a storm. Give me some thumbs up, give me some smiley faces, some hearts. Let me know that you are out there. And I think this is a really important topic because think about it. Just because we get married doesn't mean the storm stops. Just because we're in a relationship doesn't mean that we're not going to ever be in the middle of a storm. And what does that really look like if we're married or in a relationship and the storm comes? Now, last week we talked about are we dating in the middle of the storm, right? We talked about whether you should or should not date. So this is taking it one step further. You've already passed the date. You've been dating. You're now married. You're in a relationship, a committed relationship, and the storm hits. Well, what are the storms? Death. Somebody that you love dies. Divorce. You may have divorced in the past, and now that drama is coming back to haunt you in your new marriage. So you may be in a blended family. I'm going to integrate a little bit of that into this conversation because I find that blended families are on a rise, and yet children are at the highest risk of being traumatized sometimes in blended family scenarios because it's so complex, let's say. So that could happen. There could be financial fallout, right? Most people are 1-2 paychecks maybe away from bankruptcy. You're certainly an illness away from potential bankruptcy, right? So what does that look like? If the storm hits, you get sick, you don't have enough money, you may not have the insurance that you like, the deductibles are way too high, and now you're married and none of this is what you signed up for, but you are in the middle of the storm and you are married or partnered. Also, if you lose your job, all these things could potentially happen. And when they do happen, most of the time we're not really the best version of ourselves. We just aren't. Let's just go on and admit it. And I'm going to be fully honest and transparent because you all know that we believe here at Faith Inc. and Connections Matter that truth, trust, and transparency, well, that leads to transformational breakthroughs if you're willing. So when you think about marriage, when we think about that commitment, when we think about long-term committed relationships, we've made a decision, right? Sometimes indecision is a decision, but we've made a decision, a decision to spend, we believe, the rest of our lives with this person, right? And again, a lot of times when you're in the dating phase, you may or may not experience a storm. So how then do you know how you're going to react in that storm if you're not tested in that relationship? And so as a result, sometimes what happens is people change. Now, we say change, but the truth is, guys, that sometimes when we're in a storm, what happens really is we become more of who we always were to begin with. Because you all know when you're dating, we can put on that mask, we can send our representative for quite some time, but it's hard to continue to be the representative or the alternative version of who you really are forever, right? And when a storm hits, sometimes what happens is we go deeper and we become more of who we always were. And then the question becomes, did the partner meet that person? Did our spouses understand that is another side? Because we all have multiple sides, right? There's some, for me, sometimes there's a kinder, gentler version of me, and sometimes there's not the best version of me. So we all have many sides. So what does that really, really, really look like when that storm hits and you're in that you're in that relationship? I see Michelle. She gave me the thumbs up and smiley face. Hey, Michelle, thanks for joining the show. You guys, let me know. Sonia's on too. Thanks for joining the show. Let me know if this hits home with anyone, right? Let me know if you've ever been, Michelle, Sonia, in the middle of the storm and been partnered, whether you've been married or whether you are in a long-term relationship. And how did that work out for you? Because if it's not us that may be having the difficulty, right, of adjusting. And by the way, for those clinicians out there, usually one of the diagnoses that we list quite a bit is adjustment disorder, unspecified. Partly because adjustment disorder, the truth is that we're all adjusting to something. And when we're adjusting, sometimes we don't adjust very well. The indicator of sometimes healthy coping skills is whether we can adjust to that new norm, that change. When we don't have as much money because we lost our jobs, or when that person is not around for us to pick up the phone because they've passed away. So how do you adjust to that? And if you are the person, you're the recipient of being in a relationship with someone and they are going through a storm or growing through storm, how are they responding to you? Do you, as the mate, know what to say, what to do, how to respond, how to react, how to reflect? Those are very, very important concepts. Sometimes what happens is we tend to be more reactive than proactive, and we certainly are not good at being reflective, right? And so it's important that we think about, what does that look like when our partners are not feeling us because they're sad or they're depressed or they're in the middle of their own storm. Their life is not shaping out exactly as they had intended, or they went into the relationship and were on the top of the world, right? And so you guys were having a great time and now you're married and you have kids and there's some challenges and that person withdraws. Have you ever been in a relationship with someone who is unable and or unwilling to really talk to you about what's going on? That's why it's so important that we have these courageous conversations. But the truth is, sometimes people don't talk because they don't even have the words. They don't know exactly what they're experiencing or how they're experiencing it or what they're feeling about it. So we tend to do, in our culture, two emotions. We do mad and we kind of do sad, right? And because we don't want to feel sad because that's a more vulnerable emotion, then sometimes we just do mad. And sometimes that doesn't bode well when we're in a relationship, because we can be mad and express that through anger. And then sometimes, as I always say, then our partners end up cashing the check that they didn't write, or we can withdraw and be mad. And sometimes we don't even know what we're mad about, right? When I used to do the SAS ministry, and I had a friend who was there, and she would always say, we would ask her, why are you so mad? Why are you so mad? Why are you still mad? And sometimes we just don't even have the words to fully understand or express what we are feeling, what those emotions are. All we know is it doesn't feel good. But guess what? If it doesn't feel good to us, then let's think about how us being mad or bitter or resentful How might that feel to our partners? So sometimes we have to take a step back. We have to reflect. I can't see the comments for some reason. Okay, I see more people on now. It was blocked off. I apologize. I apologize. So Mary Lou's on. Hey, Mary Lou. Marquisa is on. Rich Austin. Hey, Rich, are you still in Las Vegas at your Alpha event? Or are you back home? Angela's on. Thanks for joining the show. Shane is on. Jimmy. Hey, Jimmy. How are you? And Shauna. So tell me, for those of you who are on, and I don't see any comments, I'd love to hear your epiphany. Did you ever come to the realization when you were in the middle of the storm and you were partnered that you weren't the best version of yourself? Because sometimes it requires someone to check us before we wreck, what they say, check yourself before you wreck yourself. Sometimes it requires somebody that's even outside of the relationship to say, listen, you're not being so nice, or, your attitude just stinks, just stink it up the joint with your attitude. And sometimes people will focus on the outside behavior. And if we're not pulling them in with what's going on with us emotionally, then they can take issue with how we're treating them, or we can take issue with how we're being treated by someone else. And at the end of the day, sometimes when you're in these marital relationships, we know you got to put the work in. It is not easy. And there's very few fairy tales. And what I mean by that is that while you may be having a great time and maybe, quite frankly, you married the love of your life, the truth is that there will be highs and lows, peaks and valleys, good times and bad times, sickness and health, money, sometimes abundance and being at a deficit, a lack. They're going to be all of those things. A marriage is filled with ups and downs and twists and turns and trials and tribulations. And if you're not careful, right, you won't check yourself before you wreck yourself. And it's very easy for us to displace our frustrations, our disappointments, our pain, our angst, if you will, onto the person that's closest to us. The truth is, the person that can hurt us the most sometimes is our partners. It's not the person at the end, down the block. It's not your neighbor. It's not some of your family members. Sometimes it's the person that you go home with, that you wake up with, that you go to bed with. It can be the person that you have the closest and most intimate relationship with, because you're more vulnerable to those persons and that person in your life. And quite frankly, unless you're polygamous, if you're married and you're partnered in your long-term relationship, then that's the person that you share the most intimate form of connection, which is your sexuality. Having that sexual relationship is a very, very intimate thing. And so it opens us up to these vulnerabilities, and then it also allows us to have a level of comfort to assume, quite frankly, that we can say what we want to say, do what we want to do, act how we want to act, and that is quite frankly misguided. And I used to say when I taught an anger management class that the person that you don't want to treat like crap is the person you live with. So a lot of times the people in my class would say, well, that's the place, I need to let my hair down. I had a hard day. Well, you don't want to have the hard day and then come home and take it out on the person that you're supposed to love the most. Cherie is on. Hey, Cherie. Thanks for joining the show. Tell me if you're, Jimmy says word. Yes, doctor. Tell me what your thoughts are. Jimmy says open rebuke better than secret love. I agree. It's, you gotta be honest. You gotta have the courageous conversation. You gotta be open with what's going on. And sometimes what will happen is if we're having a difficult time or we're going through a storm, what we tend to do is we don't want sometimes to pressure or project onto the person that we're in a relationship with, so we'll keep it to ourselves, right? Or we'll say, I don't want to rock the boat. So I don't want them to think that, it's their fault. So I'll just keep it to myself. Well, the problem with keeping things to yourself is that, as we like to say, pressure bursts pipes, and every pressure point needs a relief valve. And so expressing how you feel versus holding it in will help the pressure to be released a little bit so that you're not taking that out on someone else, in particular, the person that you're in a relationship with. And then the question is, well, what do you do? I said, Jimmy says, I'm saving this. Excellent. This is, that's unloving. When we think, we do a lot of unloving things sometimes, Jimmy, in our relationships. And again, when we think about our behavior, the only person that can change us is us. That's it. We can't change anybody else, and no one can change us. So I always ask people two questions when we're talking about changing, especially when we're in therapy. The questions are you willing and are you able? Because some people can be willing but not able. I see a lot of thumbs up and a lot of hearts. I see a lot of thumbs up and a lot of hearts on that. Some people can be willing, not able, and then some people can be able but not willing. And the goal is to be willing and able to roll up your sleeves and do the work. That doesn't mean that the storm is over. Quite frankly, sometimes we have to be doing the work in the middle of the storm, right? And that's difficult to do. But the reality of it is, and I have asked people to think about this, can your relationship withstand not doing the work in the middle of the relationship? Can it withstand it? Because I will tell you that most of us are pretty fragile emotionally, and a lot of times we aren't prepared. I had a friend that said to me, she has lupus, and she works out every day. And I said, do you work out because you like to work out? And she said, no. I said, well, why do you work out every day? She said, I don't work out every day to deal with what's happening now. I work out every day to build my body up so that when the curveball actually does happen, when my storm does come, that I'm prepared. I'm strong enough. And I was like, oh, I love that. I'm going to use that as a metaphor for life, not just in the physical workout, but do we work out emotionally? Do we work out spiritually? Do we work out relationally in our relationship? So we're building up our relationship muscles, right? I don't really have many muscles because I need to work out physically. My husband is behind the scenes laughing at that one because he bought this great, membership to Lifetime that I haven't spent a whole lot of time in. But I digress. I'm getting there. I'm getting there in my mind. I will let you know. That's the first step. Hubby says that's the first step. So then once I get there in my mind, hopefully the body will follow. In the meantime, though, the point that I was trying to make is that, we do need to build ourselves up emotionally, physically, relationally, spiritually, build up our muscles to withstand what will happen in our lives when that storm comes, because storms can be disruptive. They really can. They come and they tear up some stuff, right? And when that storm comes, will you be fortified? Will you have the foundation, the muscles, the engagement, the preparation? Will you have the discipline to develop the skills that you need to withstand that storm so that it does not draw you apart from your partner, but it draws you closer to your partner, right? That really is the goal. And too often we tend to not be ready. Really, you know how TD Jakes used to say, get ready, get ready, get ready? We tend not to be ready. And when we're unprepared or we're ill prepared, then when that storm hits, we don't have what it takes to sustain ourselves and to maintain healthy relationships. If you think this is a good content, text someone, DM them, let them know we're on. It's Monday night. Typically, we come in on a little bit earlier, but I think thank you for the thumbs up and the smiley faces and the hearts. Morgan said, do y'all remember the New Kids on the Block that had the song Can You Stand the Rain? How did that go?
What was it? Storms may come, everybody is good. Tell me, baby, can you
Stand the rain. Okay. We don't have that gift. God has not given us that gift and that talent. So we need to stay away from the mic from that perspective. But the song is Can You Stand the Rain? And the question is, can you? I guess, when we think about whether or not we can withstand it, whether we're sustainable in the midst of it. And here's a really interesting concept, guys, and tell me what you think about this. What do you think about the fact that, hey, Antonio, thanks for joining the show. What do you think about the fact that there are times when we don't think we need to do anything to prepare? That's kind of like when the news media tells you that the storm is coming, you don't get rations, you don't get food, you don't, do the things like a big snowstorm or something, and you're just gonna be okay. Well, that's kind of how it is in life. We tend to think that life is just one flat plateau, like that, no peaks, no valleys, no bad stuff is ever going to happen, and then when we're in love in the very beginning of a relationship, the truth is that we're probably not tested. We may be tested individually, but we're not tested relationally. We're not tested in terms of going deeper with regards to our commitment to one another. And so we don't know what we don't know. We don't know what we're made of as a couple. And that requires time. It requires energy. It requires the will to learn about ourselves and about our mates and about our relationship collectively. And it requires the ability to be honest with each other. Like, I encourage people, especially here at Faith Inc. In Connections Matter, we do therapy here. This is what we typically do throughout the day. Individual therapy, couple therapy, family therapy. And I encourage people here at Faith Inc. to tell the truth. It's not a good thing to go to your doctor and be dishonest anyway, but tell the truth to yourself first and foremost. Don't lie to yourself and say you've done work that you haven't done, that you're prepared when you're not prepared, right? Because at the end of the day, your ill preparedness will only lend you to the position of lack. Your ill preparedness will only lend you to the position of lack. And what I mean by that, let me unpack that for you, is that when you're not prepared, then you don't have the necessary skills, the necessary tools, the necessary equipment, if you will, to really deal with life, as they used to say when I used to work in the rooms of addiction, life on life's terms, right? Life's terms rather, is filled with uncertainty at times, right? If y'all ever saw, what was that movie? I was just mentioning that the other day, where the guy said, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Forrest Gump. I love that movie. That was a good movie. I mean, there were a lot of metaphors, like, how he keep on running and people started following him after a while, and that, he never gave up, and he kept finding himself in situation after situation after situation. But he also had some really good one-liners, and one of them was, life is like a box of chocolates. If you ever eaten chocolates and you open up the box, now sometimes they have the little label on them, underneath to tell you exactly what it is. But if you don't cheat and you just pick one, you don't know what's on the inside. That is very, very much like life. It can be extremely unpredictable, right? And unlike a box of chocolates where you might bite into it and you decide, oh, I don't like this, and you kind of throw it away and find another one. Sometimes the things that we get, the storms that we encounter, they can throw us for a loop if we're not prepared. We can't just throw that storm back and say, oh, no, I don't think I want that. I'll try a different one. That's not how it works. So there are times when we have to embrace those particular storms. And if you guys were on last week, there were 3 things that I said. And hey, Denise is on, Lovey's on. Thanks for joining the show, guys. There were 4 things that I said that the storms will help you to do, right? Or meant for you to deal with. And this is the case with couples as well, and people that are married. If you're married in the middle of the storm, pay attention to the storm being meant to correct you, right? Connect you, right? Constrict you, right? Or cost you. I'm going to say that again. Sometimes the storms are meant for you as a collective, you and your partner, to correct you. There's something that needs to happen, and that storm is trying to get you to pay attention and redirect you. Correct and redirect, because you're going down the wrong path. I see some thumbs up. I see some smiley faces. I see some hearts. Thanks for confirming that. And then if it's not to correct you as a couple, it may be that that storm is meant to connect you, right? Not disconnect you, not move you further apart from each other, but to connect you. And if it is meant to connect you, pay attention to the meaning of that storm, right? Because the meaning of that storm may be really helpful for you with regards to what it is that is taking to you. God, the universe is taking you to another level. So it's meant to connect you. Oh, Morgan's reminding me to ask you guys to share. If you like this content, share, tag, like, and of course, comment. Tell me what your thoughts are. I know that I'm not the only person that's been in the midst of a storm. And also in our relationship, Morgan and I have been in the middle of many storms. And sometimes he's in the back, he's in the background talking about Lord, yes. And truth, trust, and transparency leading to transformational breakthroughs. The beginning of our marriage started out with my mother dying on November 28th, 2014. December 28th, 2014, we were saying I do. 30 days later, we were getting married. That dumped us both into January of 2015, and I am depressed. Morgan is wondering, well, whoa, you weren't depressed when we were dating. And he's like, this is kind of not what I signed up for, but he was in it, win it. And so he was willing to grow through the storm with me, and then we were dealing with some other issues as well. And so, God didn't say it was going to be easy. He said he would be with us, right? That's right. That's right. Morgan said, he has a raspy voice. I don't know if you hear him. He said, when you say for better or for worse, right? Or in sickness and in health, or to death do us part, you don't know when that worse, he said, is going to come. You don't get to decide. We need to plan, right? Because people don't plan to fail. They fail to plan. So you need to plan. But that doesn't mean just because you plan that all bets are off and you're never going to go through or grow through any storm. The storm is never going to hit you, or it's never going to come close to home. We don't get to always make that decision. So the goal is that we need to begin to fortify ourselves, to develop ourselves as a couple. So when that storm does hit, we're ready. We are ready. And so hi, Liz. It's now Allen-Wilson. Yeah. You were saying that to somebody. Okay, Elizabeth. Hey. Elizabeth's my student from Drexel. Hey, Elizabeth. Thanks for joining. So some people still say with Alan. Hey, KD. Is KD you on? Oh, I see her. Hey, KD. Hey, sweetie. How are you? I love you. I miss you. I can't wait to see you soon. I hope you're still on. Denise is on as well. So tell me, we've had some storms, Katie and I, for sure. And how's my nephew doing? I need to touch base with you. Joanne is on. Hey, Joanne. So, yeah, my sore. So here's the deal. If this is true, if you guys believe this, that storms are meant to correct us, constrict us, connect us, and then the fourth one is sometimes storms cost us. They cost us something. Well, the question is, sometimes people ask, why me? Why am I going through this? Why do I have to incur this? Why do we as a couple, as a collective, have to endure this particular storm? And then the question, like the answer that I think kind of grounds us is, why not you? Why not us? Because sometimes, as I've said over and over again, people are paying attention. Somebody's watching you, and they may be either inspired by what you're doing in the midst of that storm or repelled by how you handle that particular storm, right? And you much rather people be inspired than repelled. But that doesn't mean necessarily that you don't have to be honest. Sometimes you can say, it can be a both and, guys. It can be like, I'm in the middle of a storm and this is tough, and I'm having difficulty, or we're having difficulty. But don't just let the fact that it's tough knock you out of the ring. Get back up, get back in it, dust yourself off, make a declaration that you will grow through this, you will get through this. Every setback is a setup for a comeback, and declare that this will end. That's the issue sometimes. We think that the storm will never end. And we feel like, okay, well, if this is how it's going to be, then I didn't sign up for this. I don't want any parts of this. Well, the storm really is meant to teach us something, and it will end. Sometimes we check out before the miracle actually happens. And the miracle is when we get to the other side of the storm and we see that there's sun on the other side. We see that there's joy on the other side. We see that there's happiness on the other side. And then we get to tell our testimony. We get to say, we don't look like what we've been through. Hello. Isn't that a lot of us, right? And isn't that the beauty of it? That you get to turn your mess into a message and really turn that test into a testimony so that you can then impact other people. Isn't that the purpose of it? So that people get to say, well, oh my God, if you and your relationship, if you grew through all of that and it didn't knock you out, then oh my goodness, maybe there is hope for me. So I'm going to read some of the comments. I think, okay, I got Elizabeth says, wow, this was on time. Currently going through a storm with my husband. We just added a new baby to our family. Such a tough transition. Okay, and then next comment, and Leah's on. Hey, Leah, thanks for joining the show. Next comment, wow, this is so encouraging. I really needed this. I'm tearing up. Thank you for this. Oh, thank you for joining. Thank you for being transparent and honest, Liz. You know, I get it. I get it. And I want to talk a little bit about what you just shared with the new baby and the tough transition, because that's a difficult one too. Why not us? Jimmy agrees with that. Why not us? And most supporters leave you. That's very telling. Absolutely true. You know, Lizzie gives us a really good indicator, I would say, or a model, because a lot of times, and I'm glad she reminded me of this, a lot of times we think storms are bad stuff, right? And then those are bad things that I just mentioned, divorce and, you know, death and job loss. But what if the storm is a good thing? What if the storm is a new baby? What if the storm is you just got married? What if the storm is you just got a job and you're dealing with a new job and a new baby and a new house and a new, you know, all these new things, these new norms, these new rituals, and it all comes at the same time. And here's the challenge with that most people are looking at you and saying, girl, please, you're blessed, right? But you know only, and I said this to my sister a little bit earlier, the bandwidth, only you know what your bandwidth is. So think about that, your bandwidth. So think about a rubber band. If you stretch the rubber band, right, and you can feel the tension in the rubber band, sometimes we're not so sure if we stretch it too much, will it actually lose its ability to function because it's stretched out too much, that it's no longer, it doesn't have that elasticity that it once did to hold something. And then what happens if we stretch it too much and it pops? Now we got to jerry rig it back together. It's certainly disruptive to the actual purpose of the rubber band. It doesn't allow it to function in the way that it used to function. Well, I want us to think of ourselves in some ways as rubber bands. It's important for us to note if the storm is stretching us, and the storms are going to come, and they may be good things or bad things. How much bandwidth do we really have? And sometimes we have to really pay attention to our internal well-being. And even in the midst of some of those good things or the bad things, we have to employ, if there's a new norm that we're dealing with, we have to employ new strategy, new coping mechanisms, new skills, new tools in our toolbox to withstand that disruption in our lives with both the good stuff and the bad stuff, because both can either make or break you. Ramona's on. Hey, Ramona, thanks for joining. Stretch to bandwidth. Jimmy said it's stretched. Absolutely. It's very, very difficult. And sometimes we don't fully understand it. And here's where accountability partners can come in handy, right? Because sometimes we're not even where we can go so deep into whatever our goals are, whatever our aspirations are, whatever is going on in our own lives, that sometimes we don't even really see ourselves. We become numb to the drama, possibly, and the trauma, right? Think about that. Think about if you've ever become numb to the drama and the trauma in such a way that you don't really fully understand what's going on the inside. And quite frankly, then it takes your partner or someone else as an accountability partner to really unpack that, hey, sis, hey, bruh, you not doing too well. You got some stuff going on. You're pensive, you're being disruptive, or you're edgy, or you tend to slash out at people, your tolerance level is kind of short-tempered. If those things are happening, sometimes it requires somebody that loves us enough to tell us the truth. And the question then becomes, do you love yourself enough to listen, to hear it, to take wise and good counsel, right? Even if it's your partner, can you take a step back? Because sometimes it's hard to listen to your partner, right? Sometimes we can feel judged, or we feel like the person's being judgmental, or we just don't want to look bad with in front of somebody we love. But sometimes we have to step back and say, is this person trying to hurt me? You know how we say, are you helping to harm or healing the hurt? Ask yourself that question. Ask yourself to really go deep with discernment to determine whether or not you believe that person is helping to harm or healing the hurt. And if you land on the fact that they're trying to harm you, then that's a different conversation. But if you land on, though, they're healing the hurt, or they're trying to utilize their words to bring to your attention that you either are going down a disruptive path, or that you are so overwhelmed that the pressure is impacting you in a negative way that is actually being disruptive to your marriage or your relationship. And then, if that is the case, here's where I go to, you do not have to suffer in silence. You do not have to suffer without intervention. The thing that we have not gotten, many of us, is the memo that there are people that can help. Therapy actually works. Doing coaching, going to a coach or a spiritual advisor, that actually works. Sometimes we need someone outside of our system that is not subjective, that is objective, to create that safe environment for us to actually roll up our sleeves and do the work. It doesn't mean that you have to be in therapy for the rest of your life, but it does mean, as I say to people when they say to me, when they come and they say, well, how long is this going to last? And I say, well, how long did it take you to get in this situation? Right? Yeah, how long? So if it took you like 20 years, right? Then it's probably not going to be 20 days that you get to a place of healing. But as long as you are willing to roll up your sleeves and put the work in and embark on a journey of healing, you might be pleasantly surprised the epiphanies, the awareness, the insight, the skills, the tools, right, that allow you to go deeper to fully understand what has happened and then begin your journey of healing, right? And you'll be surprised at how that impacts not only you, but your entire community, because a healthier you means a healthier community. It means a healthier relationship. It means a healthier family. Because sometimes the truth is, while you're in the midst of a storm or even in your relationship, you may be the common denominator that is impacting the relationship in a negative way. 38 years. Who's 38 years? Jimmy's 38 years married? 38 years, Jimmy? Is that really? Wow. Congratulations. That's awesome. I'm tired at 66 years old. Yes, I can understand that. But we got to keep fighting. Um, we got to keep fighting for what is right. We have to keep fighting for what is authentically designed for us, right? We are designed to live an abundant life in every area, financially, spiritually, relationally, familially, in our marriages, with our children. That's what we're designed for. But sometimes we get tired. We get sick and tired of being sick and tired, and we may not feel like we get the support that we need. And sometimes that then impacts us in a negative way. You know, oh, yes, and divorcing is over. Oh, my goodness, I'm sorry to hear that. So that's the storm. That is the storm, Jimmy. Thank you for being transparent. Um, and here's the deal with that. You know, I I am not the person. I used to be a therapist who thought that if you came to my office, I had to fix you, right? I had to fix the relationship. You know, the show Ayanna Fixed My Life. I don't really believe that because I don't think that people get fixed. I do believe that people get healed. And I do believe that then once people get healed and they begin to do the necessary work for them to be whole, at that time, then they determine what relationships are for them and what relationships are not. And I absolutely fundamentally believe that we are on this planet to be in the healthiest relationships that we possibly can be in. And unfortunately, sometimes there are people that we stayed in the relationship past our expiration date with, and for whatever reason, if they're not willing to grow, if they're not able to appreciate who we are, if they don't value us or respect us, or for whatever reason the relationship has just grown apart, then people have to make good adult decisions to preserve themselves. I definitely believe in self-preservation, and I believe that people need to make those decisions that are healthiest ultimately so that they can live their best lives. And too often people used to stay in relationships not because they were in love and in like with one another, because I definitely believe that people are in love or love the person, but like is underrated and you need to love and like the person. And so I'm not just the person that will tell you stay in something far beyond its expiration date, and especially don't stay in something that is hurting you uh, in order to just save face. I think you guys heard me say that I don't believe that you need to stay in anything that is, whether it be a familial relationship or a marital relationship, a friendship, just for loyalty, legacy, or longevity. I don't believe that anyone needs to stay in a relationship for loyalty, legacy, or longevity. You know how some people say, oh, we've been in this relationship for so long, we're just going to stay in it. Well, it has to be serving you. You need to be honoring one another in order for that to make sense. Then sometimes people just loyal. I'm just going to stay in it because I'm just loyal to this person, no matter whether they're abusive or not. Nah, that's not working. And then legacy, I'm just going to stay in it just because this is what people in my family always did. They stayed in relationships long, forever, and that is our legacy, even if the person is abusive or the person is not honoring you. We need to do better than that. We need to really deconstruct why we're in relationships and then make a decision to not only be healthy ourselves, but make a decision to be in healthy relationships with one another. Ramona says, oh, Jimmy says, we both saw it coming 14 years ago. I got it. I got it. And sometimes, and this is why we have these conversations, Jimmy, around courageous conversations, right? Because sometimes people see it, but nobody says anything, right? And if you see it, then you got to say something. If you say something, then it's time to do something. And if you begin to embark on a journey of doing something, then you have an option. You have, there's some room for growth. But if nobody's saying or nobody's seeing anything, saying anything, or doing anything, then ultimately the relationship sometimes will deconstruct, decompose. Yeah, I saw Ramona's comment. We are designed to live in a blended. No, I see it, babe. I see. Ramona, I just went back to Jimmy because I was focusing on what he was saying. Ramona says, come on, be open and honest with yourself. Value who you are. I always say you would take insulin to make sure the blood sugars are regulated, but will avoid therapy to regulate and manage emotions. Absolutely. That's a good point, Ramona. That sometimes we are a little afraid of therapy. We're not sure in terms of going deeper what's going to happen. But if the doctor said you got to take insulin because you got diabetes, or if they said that, you've got to take your blood pressure medicine, as you've gotten older, we typically will follow the doctor's orders, right? Yet, oftentimes we're too afraid to do the therapeutic intervention to unpack the layers. And quite frankly, I'm going to be honest, sometimes it'll make you cry. It'll make you sad. It may make you a little frustrated before you get to a place of glad, right, that you did it. But what's the alternative? Being angry and frustrated for life just for the sake of being in this miserable life for yourself? Like, if you are seeing it that way, nobody is designed for that. We are designed to experience joy and abundance and live our best lives. We're only here for a short period of time on this planet, and we have a dash. We have birth, death, and we have a dash. And of course we have, if you're a believer, the afterlife. But while we're here on this planet, the question is, what are you doing in your dash? Are you living your best life in your dash? Are you leaving a legacy? Are you enjoying the journey? And if you're not enjoying the journey, what are the things that you can do to constrict, correct, or connect so that it doesn't cost you too much? Empty nest, Jimmy says, revealing. Amen. Totally agree with this, Elizabeth said. Jimmy said, I feel you. For the kids, he says. Renina Paris says, thank you. I was looking for legacy. She says, hallelujah. Jimmy says, glory to God. Feel it to heal it. Absolutely. In order to feel, you have to heal. And you can't heal what you don't reveal. And so that is my sort of, I guess, infomercial for therapeutic intervention. Let's do the work so that you can start feeling what's going on inside of you and unpacking it. It may make you cry, like peeling back the layers of an onion, but eventually you get to revealing and then ultimately healing. And then at that time, then you're open to the opportunities that are available to you to not only live your best life, but also to be in healthy relationships with others. That's why I'm here. I need help. Well, thank you for joining. I appreciate you always are like wonderfully authentic and able to share. And you're a model, Jimmy, and many of our other listeners on this platform are a model for being honest, right? We believe in truth, trust, and transparency ultimately leads to transformational breakthroughs, right? It's to be honest with yourself and your pain, because quite frankly, this is how other people glean from us and have hope as well, that they can actually do this transformational work as well. And if we don't demonstrate it ourselves, then oftentimes people are feeling like, okay, well, I can't do this work. Well, that's not true. That's a lie from the pit of hell. We all have the same availability, maybe in a different context, right? And so if therapy is not for you at this particular time, there's self-help books, there's podcasts. Come the fall, going into the fall, we're going to be launching a podcast. So if you're not interested, or this platform doesn't quite work for you, or the timing doesn't quite work for you, then check out the podcast. If you're driving in the car, you can listen to that and you can play it back. By the way, you can play this back as well. So if you can't listen in real time, you can play it back, share it, please, because we always say this is a dialogue, not a monologue. So we want you to share this information with others, not just keep it to yourself, so that other people will be blessed by it too. And they will hopefully be able to be transformed as well. Marcia's on. Hey, Marcia, thanks for joining the show. Renina says, now I know it's not just about legacy. I mean, what is the legacy of, if you're not healthy? Leaving an unhealthy legacy is not good. Absolutely. Absolutely. We stay sometimes in a relationship for legacy, right? But then we're not creating a legacy. Actually, what we're doing is we're creating unhealthy models, and we're passing on transgenerational patterns to the next generation in which they're embarking on the same kind of unhealthy relationships. Because, as I always say, people are watching. They're watching all of us. Excuse me. Sorry, the post-nasal drip. Got to me. They're watching all of us. Our children are watching us. Our families are watching us. And sometimes the most appreciation or the value that people give to you is just be honest that, this stuff, this journey that we're embarking on called life is difficult. It's not always easy, but there are some ways in which we can develop skills that help us, not hurt us. And we need to just go on notice and put ourselves on notice, put others on notice that we're about this healing journey. And that since we only have, again, a short period of time on this earth, let's do the darn thing. Let's get busy doing our own work so that when the storms do come, whether we're in our marriages or whether we're in relationships or whether we're not, that we're equipped, that we have the skills, we have the tools, we have the ability to protect ourselves, to preserve ourselves, and then ultimately to provide for others, because we've definitely grown through, not just gone through, but grown through. So this conversation, I want you guys to think about it with regards to either being married or in a relationship in the middle of a storm. Let me know. Tomorrow's Testimonial Tuesdays. I ask you to, what am I asking them to do? I am tired, guys. No. The thing that I always forget, contact us at Dr. What is it? I don't know why I can't remember that. It's ridiculous. Contact us at connectionsmatterllc.com. So if you guys have any questions about this, if you have more questions that you want us to unpack on WIOW Work It Out Wednesday, then contact us at connectionsmatterllc.com. List your questions. Tell me what your thoughts are. Share your journey. I would be happy to respond to it and give you any feedback that I possibly can. And then we're going to be back on WIOW Work It Out Wednesday. We're going to work it out. We're going to have a topic. We'll unpack this a little bit more, and we're going to be also probably talking about some other things that I've been thinking about. And then thoughtful Thursdays is when I share my thoughts with you in an effort to inspire, in an effort to motivate, in an effort to affirm where you're at, where you're going, and my goal is to help you to get there. And then we've got Freedom Fridays. Freedom Fridays, you just tell us what you want us to talk about, and we make that happen every Monday on Mindful Mondays. So have a great night, guys. Continue to follow our platform. We appreciate it. We don't take it lightly. And that's all I got for now. Have a beautiful night on purpose from my heart to yours. Love you guys. Nothing you can do about it.